So I'm really excited to share with everyone that I am in the process of imminently starting up a new branded business. So it's going to be still utilizing my skills as an advocate, as a legal representative, as a negotiator, as a thorn in someone's side when I'm up against them. But we use the long arm of the law, and we use that to get justice. And that's really been the driving factor behind what I've come to do in this life mission. And so the interesting thing is I've been talking about expanding, and I couldn't quite work out how that was going to happen because I've been contracting my services to one organisation for 14 years, made a very tidy profit every year, potentially every advocate added up together in what they were turning over, I was doing alone. And don't quote me on that, but it's pretty darn close. And so what I'm using Idyllic for, which is in New Plymouth, if you don't know of them, they're a great, they are a success story of their own. I have to say I was totally impressed when I went in there. I was just absolutely, in awe of their decor, of their interior design, of their panache, of their ability to connect and really kind of, place me into that zone where I really want to talk about and get excited with someone who actually has, beacons of light coming up in their eyes. Their eyes are lighting up as you speak, and they're getting excited as you are about the colors, about the designs, about what your values, what your tikanga is, what is it that makes us get up in the morning and go with another round of, what a lot of people say to me in mediation is pretty simple, really. I don't know how you do this as a job. And I think to myself, I love it. I absolutely love what I do. I love being a voice for other people. I love putting myself into their shoes to really feel what they've been through and to kind of like walk a mile in someone's shoes. That's the ethos of, I think, what we're here to do as human beings. There's no point going around being successful if you can't understand someone's pain, or you don't have the drive or the passion to help somebody who's suffered injustice. So I think, it's empowering, not only as a only almost 5 foot English, Indian, even African descent, lady to be coming through into a space now heading on to a 14th or 15th year in the employment law space in New Zealand. But I think also to the credit of the people that I've merged with along the way, and that I have come to experience that the biggest gift I got given when I took on this role, with a very little understanding of employment New Zealand law, having predominantly done my legal qualifications in the UK, was the fact that that being submersed into the deep end was really the best thing that could have ever happened for my career, for my knowledge, for my strategies. And I think had I have been a legal representative, we don't call them solicitors here in New Zealand, you're generally called a lawyer or a barrister. I don't call myself either. I'm an employment law advocate. I'm specialised, I'm niche, predominantly a lot of negotiation. I'm just great at getting results, and that's really what a legal representative should be around. You've got to have deep pockets. Got to have really deep pockets to go the full way of litigation. But I think one of the things that I found is that I don't give up. I'm not a cowgirl. I have been on one of those buckaroo things at a netball event, but that didn't go too well. So I'm not a cowboy or a cowgirl. I just really like to get the job done. I don't like to give up. And I will, if necessary, give my client a Rolls Royce sort of service, if that's what's required. And I think, had I not been submersed into the deep end, what we would have found was that I would have just I would have second guessed myself. I don't think I would have easily fell into the position of making decisions and sticking by them and taking some risks. You gotta have to punt here or there sometimes to get to places. But I'm transparent about that. I discuss that with my client in detail. They know where they stand. Things are transparent, and so I think had I've had some top-notch sort of lawyer, partner, associate, whatever you might want to call them, strutting around, and I was sitting there with my couple of little cases, I might have been like, I wonder what Joe would have done. And then I might have snuck to Joe while having a water break, let's say. Not that I drink enough of that, maybe a coffee break. But I would have snuck across and probably tried to kind of get some sort of consensus of whether I was heading down the right track. And I don't think that's always useful because, when you start to doubt what instinctively comes to you, that's when I think that you find that things you don't develop and evolve as well as you should. So I think this is all about trusting in yourself to be able to see, not enough water. Trusting in yourself to know that that you really do have a couple of guiding factors. We know intellectual IQ was something that was measured. I did terrible. I remember going for civil servant jobs and not even getting past the first hurdle. I knew if I got to the interview, I'd be fine, but getting through the non-verbal and verbal reasoning and the mathematics and all of that, for goodness knows what, these were civil servant jobs, wasn't really something that I was very good at. So IQ, I could probably quite happily say that I have not got a high IQ, and I'm not going to profess to have it. But what I do have is I have something called emotional intelligence. So I can read people and I can read situations and I can analyze. I was quite crazy actually. I think when I went for my Business Central position, they did a huge sort of kind of number of sort of tests, and one of those was a psychometric test or a psychology test, if you like. And through that, I actually, I'll have a sip of water, shall I? Let's get over this croaky voice. But I had a situation where we had to go through this quite intensive sort of long length of questions. And I came up at something like the top 1% in the world for analysing. And that is pretty remarkable. And like everything, a double-edged sword. Not very good for relationships because I'm probably sitting there analysing every action and behaviour. And sometimes that old adage comes along and says the more that you judge, the less you love. And that's actually got quite a lot of truth around it. So I think that, we've got to recognise that some of the skills that we have is emotional intelligence. And that's sometimes reading situations, whether you're analytical or you're just really good at picking up vibes even. And then the third one is your spiritual intelligence. That's your gut feeling. I can't say it louder and clearer than that. Anyway, so there's three main things that generally make somebody relatively good at something that what they're doing. And I think it's about drawing on your personal strengths. And then, if you're going to offer a service, giving your best, giving your absolute best, because if you don't, there's only one person that is going to be disappointed, and that's going to be you. Because, how can you live up to what your truth is unless you're doing that? Anyway, so I'm very excited to let you know that there's going to be lots of expansion. I'm still currently taking on cases. I will be actually advancing what I do, but that's a little bit of a secret. You'll have to check in with me to find out what that's about, and also building a team. But yeah, I just thought I'd just break the ice and start it off.